Hello and welcome. You're watching UATV News with me, Ksenia Bugay. Let's start with the latest developments. President of Ukraine Volodymyr Zelenskyy cancelled the regime of the Crimea Free Economic Zone. According to the head of state, the law will approach the day of liberation of the Ukrainian peninsula from Russian invaders. Volodymyr Zelenskyy announced its signing during an interview with journalists from Crimea. He told them about plans to build a strong navy, his expectations from the Crimean Platform, and how to release Ukrainians illegally held in Russian prisons. Details next.
President Volodymyr Zelenskyy gave an interview to Crimean journalists on Zmyiny Island. They got there by helicopter. This is the southernmost part of Ukraine, which is controlled by the state. The conversation takes place immediately after the naval exercises in the area end.
Zmyiny is an island, and it is symbolic, I guess. Any island, any territory of Ukraine will be protected and defended.
According to the president, Ukraine uses all opportunities to protect its territories. One of those is the Crimean Platform initiative, which will include all the most important problems of the occupied Crimea. After the end of the summit on August 23rd, this platform will operate daily, the head of state said.
The Crimean Platform is the first unified institutional platform that will operate not once a year but daily in the office of the Crimean Platform. And there the most important issues, primarily humanitarian ones, will be considered. So far, Crimea is like a Russian aircraft carrier. This is no longer the pearl of Ukrainian land by the sea. Today it is a militarized peninsula of the Russian Federation with a daily increase in armaments, reduction in the indigenous population and general decrease in any natural, ecological and tourist attractiveness. That's what it looks like.
More than 40 states and organizations voiced their support for the Crimean Platform. As the president noted, it will become the bell that Ukraine will ring every day, raising sensitive issues and making them relevant for the whole world. However, in addition to this, formation of a strong Ukrainian navy will become another important component of the occupation.
Concerning our navy, we have elaborated 3 stages up to year 2035 of building a large fleet. We will already see the first stage in real life. It will definitely be completed till 2024. The second stage will be completed until 2030 and the third until 2035. There will be corvettes, military boats, small submarines and naval bases.
The president also assured that during the meetings of any format he raises the issue of Crimean political prisoners and the prospects for their release. However, the final decision should be made only by the Kremlin.
Unfortunately, I see no other way out rather than direct negotiations with the president of Russia on Crimean prisoners. Nevertheless, I believe there could be some other options, and they should be worked out in the frameworks of the Crimean Platform.
According to the president, the Crimean issue should be raised at all levels, because even in the Ukrainian media space little attention is paid to the problems of the occupied Crimea. It is at the upcoming summit that Volodymyr Zelenskyy plans to announce a number of legislative changes regarding further the occupation of Crimea. Reported by Vadim Kromer, UATV News.
Presidents of Ukraine and the United States, Volodymyr Zelenskyy and Joe Biden, will meet on August 31st. This was announced by the Minister of Foreign Affairs of Ukraine, Dmytro Kuleba. The format of the negotiations has been expanded. It involves not only a meeting of delegations, but also a one-on-one conversation between the head of states. Besides, Dmytro Kuleba also noted that 2 more countries have joined the Crimean Platform. Now, the number of participants of this summit, which will take place on August 23rd, has increased to 44. 14 will be represented by the heads of state and governments, and the EU leadership. The summit will be attended by presidents of Latvia, Lithuania, Estonia, Poland, Slovakia, Hungary, Moldova, Slovenia and Finland.
Ukraine had never hosted such an international event before. We knew that the international community was ready for new formats concerning not only Crimea, but in general new security configurations. I want to thank everyone who, despite the enormous pressure from the Russian Federation, confirmed their participation in the Crimean Platform and made a political decision to join Ukraine's efforts to counter the Russian occupation of Crimea and return the peninsula to our control.
Russia can start provocations to disrupt the Crimean Platform summit. This was stated by the former U.S. Special Envoy for Ukraine negotiations, Volker, in an interview with Crimea Relatives Project. He noted that the Russian President Vladimir Putin could provoke an escalation of the conflict during the celebration of the 30th anniversary of Ukraine's independence.
They could try to close off the Sea of Azov to commercial traffic. They claim to control Crimea, and of course they control the Russian coast, and they could say, oh, this is all Russian water, or it's not safe to pass anymore. They could put land pressure, land invasion towards Mariupol. They could claim that the water reservoirs that had previously served water to Crimea should logically be part of Crimea and then move to take those. They could take over more areas of the Black Sea, claiming that they are off limits due to urgent military needs. So they could recognize the so-called People's Republics as independent states.
In the occupied Crimea, local residents receive warnings against celebration of the Independence Day of Ukraine. Crimean Tatar activist Zair Smedli wrote about this on his social network page. He received a warning from the Russian prosecutor's office of the Krasnogvardeysky district. It indicated that everyone who will participate in these so-called illegal actions will be brought to administrative responsibility. To remind, after the Russian Federation illegally occupied Crimea, the celebrations of Ukraine's Independence Day are held here unofficially. State-owned enterprises, nature resources, mineral deposits, infrastructure facilities, property of private companies and residents. These assets were lost by Ukraine as the result of the occupation of Crimea by Russia. Currently, lawyers are defending Ukraine's right to obtain compensation from Russia in dozens of lawsuits. How much did Ukraine lose as a result of the occupation of the peninsula, and whether it is possible to make Russia pay? My colleagues found out.
More than $135 billion. This is the assessment of losses caused by the Russian occupation of Crimea, as evaluated by experts of the Center of Economic Strategy. This sum includes assets located on the territory of the occupied peninsula.
We counted the balance sheet value of enterprises of any form of incorporation, also the value of residential estate property and the value of natural deposits, meaning first-hand oil and gas reserves.
According to the research, the major part of the sum lost, that is $55 billion, comes from occupation of natural resources. However, private and state enterprises are also part of the matter. All pieces of evidence on the illegal takeover of state assets are collected in the separate criminal proceeding, the prosecutor's office of the Autonomous Republic of Crimea state. The charge sheet has already been delivered to the so-called occupation authorities.
Among suspects are the so-called heads of executive and legislative branches, which illegally took possession of Chernomor-Naftogaz and Antarctic enterprises, as well as Massandra Winery and many others. We also carry civilian lawsuits in cases of an illegal takeover of property, both by occupation authorities or other criminals in the occupied Crimea.
Ukrainian companies are also trying Russia in international tribunals with compensation litigations regarding the Crimean assets. Taken together, the sum lost by two Ukrainian state banks pending the judgment totals up to $2 billion. Beyond that, the arbitration court in Hague is considering the claim on the compensation of $5 billion of damages to the Ukrainian Naftogaz enterprise and its affiliated companies. But experts warn success is almost impossible.
The payment of compensation by Russia would have the same effect as the plea of guilt. But Russia would never do this. Therefore, we should talk not as much about the compensation story, but about the return of the Crimea and Donbas.
Experts of the Center for the Economic Strategy estimated only direct losses, but the real amount of damages is indeed more high-priced. It amounts to more than 3% of GDP, which the peninsula gave to the country back in 2013.
Mainland Ukraine has lost the Crimean market as well as the access to the necessary products, forcing it to find new sources, which cost at new prices. These are import and the global shift in the balance of payments, exchange rates, and many other factors. The real damage taken into account these effects makes some 4.5–5% of the GDP.
The accurate estimation of damages caused by the Russian aggression would be helpful, not only in the court decision-making, but also in information campaigning across international platforms and political discussions, such as the Crimean Platform Summit. Reported by Nick Starkov, UATV News.
Almost 2 million citizens on both sides of the contact line in Donetsk and Luhansk regions are deprived of basic necessities. This was stated in Kyiv by representatives of humanitarian organizations. According to them, people do not have enough food, hygiene items, access to water supply and medical services. In this regard, humanitarian organizations appeal to world donors with a request to finance the assistance. According to preliminary estimates, at least $49 million should be collected by the end of the year. The money will also be submitted to rebuild housing, prepare for heating season, and for the new wave of COVID-19 pandemic as well.
This year, so far, the humanitarian actors have received only 27%, which is some 45.4 million of the 168 million required to meet the needs of Ukrainians on both sides of the contact line from our international donors. If the funding is not made available, this means that we will be able to reach less than half of the 1.9 million that we have targeted for assistance by the end of 2021.
How well do you speak Ukrainian? The educational portal moyamova.in.ua will now help one to determine this. The national platform is the collection of effective online and offline resources as well as mobile applications for both Ukrainians who want to improve their knowledge of Ukrainian and foreigners who want to learn it from scratch. All resources are created on the basis of Ukrainian spelling of 2019.
It will be a very timely initiative for all government officials. Not everyone studied Ukrainian at school or university. Therefore, this is an example of gentle Ukrainization, increasing the usage of the Ukrainian language, and it will be very relevant now.
For example, the course of the modern Ukrainian language is the only course in Ukraine now that includes the rules of the new spelling. We have moved away from the format of video lessons in such a familiar format. We now do online courses in SCORM, shareable content object reference model format. From now on, the European Union recognizes Ukrainian COVID certificates. Testing of documents has been completed, and now it would take several days before the service appears in the DIA application. After that, Ukrainians will be able to generate a certificate. At the same time, the Minister of Digital Transformation says that there will be 2 documents.
We do not generate one single certificate, but 2 certificates. One to travel outside the country to the European Union, and the other certificate, it is internal one. What makes them different is that there is more medical information in the international COVID certificate, so that the European colleagues can check everything necessary.
The world's first summit of First Ladies and Gentlemen, entitled Soft Power in New Reality, will be held on August 23rd. It will be attended by 11 First Ladies, gentlemen, actors, directors, and public figures. Opinion leaders will gather at one site in the St. Sophia of Kyiv National Reserve to discuss humanitarian issues, among them healthcare, education, and equal opportunities. The First Ladies and the First Gentlemen are influential in their countries. They are public figures, they are heard, they are listened to, they are followed because everything they communicate quickly becomes known. All the events they are involved in become brighter. It's really a soft force that needs to be used.
ми дійсно знайшли таку нішу.
We have really found a very important niche because the first ladies and gentlemen are essentially influencers of the political world. They are people who have additional authority in order to softly implement social projects important for society, overcome the problems that exist. The goal is for them to come together, share experiences and unite in some projects.
A stand with the state flag, which the People's Deputies brought into the Parliament Hall on August 24, 1991, was opened in front of the Verkhovna Rada building. Now everyone can see this symbol. For the first time in 30 years, it will be displayed on Constitution Square. Traditionally, during ceremonial meetings on the occasion of national holidays, the flag is symbolically brought into the session hall of the Verkhovna Rada by MPs who were direct participants of the adoption of the Act of the Declaration of Independence of Ukraine.
The first steps of our already free, democratic and independent state began with the bringing of the independence flag to the premises of the Verkhovna Rada. At present, the Ukrainian flag flies not only over state buildings, such as the Parliament of Ukraine, but also over the front line. Unfortunately, over the front line. It has not yet returned to the Ukrainian cities of Donetsk and Luhansk, cities of Sevastopol and Simferopol, but that's only for now.
Ukrainian polar explorers got a present for the Independence Day. The legendary British icebreaker James Clark Ross officially belongs to Ukraine. After re-registration of documents, the vessel, already under the Ukrainian flag, will leave Denmark and arrive in Odessa in autumn, according to the director of the National Antarctic Scientific Center. It was this icebreaker that in 1996 transported the first Ukrainian expedition to the Faraday Station, now the Vernadsky Antarctic Research Base.
Це не випадковий збіг, а це саме доля.
That's not a coincidence, that's fate. Well, we see that James Clark Ross is going to reunite with Faraday, both being Ukrainian now. We thus obtain an instrument to conduct the resource research, including for Ukrainian companies. Therefore, due to the icebreaker, we will be able to make way for the so-called blue economy, that is the economy of the world ocean. It is now a key trend of the 21st century.
That's all for today. Thank you for watching. Stay tuned. More updates on our official website, YouTube, Facebook and Twitter pages.